welcome to Scrum Gear. This is my first channel related to project management. So basically here I'll share all the useful insights related to project management, Scrum frameworks, and some more useful frequently asked questions and answers related to business analysis and project managers. So in this particular video, I'll share some useful insights on uh, Scrum framework. So I'll start with Agile and Scrum terminologies here, where I'll share some of the most important terminologies that are used for Scrum. And as every one of you might be aware that today's many of the companies are using the Scrum framework to work on their project because it is more reliable and it generate the result instantly. So this is the main reason behind the Scrum framework and Agile terminologies. uh, Now we will see what we are going to learn in this particular video. So I'll share what is Scrum. Next we'll see what is the Scrum framework. Then we have what is the use of Scrum framework. So basically we should know, like, whenever we are using any framework or any processes, then we should be aware about its uses, like why it is more useful and why should we use that. Next we have Scrum processes. So they have different processes that we are going to learn about in this particular video. And next we have Scrum principles, then Scrum aspect, then we will see Scrum elements, then we have Scrum core roles, non-core roles, then next we have Scrum artifacts, then we'll see Scrum events, then we have Scrum rules, and finally we'll see the Scrum values in this particular episode of this learning tutorial. So here I'll start with Scrum. So what is Scrum? So basically Scrum is an agile project management framework that team uses to self-organize and work towards a common goal or objective. So we have a different project management framework, but nowadays most of the companies are using Scrum and Agile framework only because it is more reliable for all the companies, and it produces more efficient result. So this is the main reason behind using a Scrum framework. And a Scrum project basically involves a collaborative effort to create a new product. So basically it is not a particular team wide dependent product. There have multiple teams who works to complete a particular project, and they work collaboratively so that uh, project can be completed on time and it can be delivered on time. So it is completely a team effort that produces a result at the end of this Scrum framework. So Scrum is nothing but about a set of processes that are used to complete a project. So here we'll see much more about the Scrum. Then basically Scrum describe, as I mentioned, that they have a set of processes. So it has a set of meetings, tools, and roles for efficient project delivery. And if we take an example of a sport team, so basically if any sports team are practicing for a big match, so they basically follow a Scrum practices which allow them to self manage. So basically self manage, so meaning of that, uh, they manage themselves, they learn from their experiences, they learn from their leaders. So this is the self-managed team, and they learn from their experiences and adapt to change. So same way we can say that we are doing same thing in the project management, where teams are learning from their experiences, and they are able to adapt to new changes. So basically every project and every project does not have same timeline and does not have same roadblocks, so it might differ. So from all those experiences, team learns like how to manage a new project, and they also learn from their leaders and their teammates. So this is the main benefit of Scrum. And Scrum also ensures that transparency in communication and creates an environment of collective accountability and continuous progress. So here in the Scrum, it always ensures that there should not have any backlogs or anything that is not clear to the team. So all the details are always clear while attending the meeting. So if they, any team member have any questions, or if they are stuck somewhere, then that can be answered in the meeting that are arranged for the scrum meetings, and we'll see all those details about how many scrum meetings are arranged and how it is managed and who are managing the scrum meetings. Next, we'll see the key strength of Scrum basically lies on its use of cross-functional, self-organized, and empowered team who divide their work into short, concentrated work cycles called sprints. So basically, as we already know that Scrum uh, framework allows us to work in different iterations, and when working on those iterations there are a set of deliverables that are already decided that needs to be delivered in a particular iteration. So we can also call those iteration as a sprint, and this sprint has some decided timeline, and those timeline cannot be changed over the sprints. Once it is decided for 1 week or 2 week, then it remains continuous for all the respective sprints and iterations. Next, we'll see the Scrum framework. So basically, Scrum framework defines the set of processes that should be followed in the Scrum project, and this process has been tested in the various projects, and it has given the expected outcome in better value. So this is the main reason for adopting Scrum framework in today's project, and it is not restricted to a respective or any particular company wide, because it is used by many of the company and in different domains like manufacturing company, software company, and we have a different domains, and in the banking sector as well. For delivering the project they are using a Scrum framework only. And now here we'll see the Scrum framework how it works. And if we talk about the requirements, so for any project it starts with a requirement gathering, and for requirement gathering we have a product owner who is responsible to gather all the requirements from the stakeholders. It might be executives or different teams, or might be from customers or users. So it is the responsibility of product owner to gather all the requirement, and we have a different roles in the Scrum, and that only allows team to manage it properly and get the respective deliverable at the right time and at the decided timeline that is shared to the stakeholder. And the first one that starts, it starts with the product backlog. So once product owner gathers all the requirement, then he need to set the priority of all those requirements, and accordingly he need to create some stories, and we'll see all those details in further videos like how to create the stories. So we have a different tools as well. So they have a different tool that is basically used to manage the Scrum project, and we'll learn more about those tools as well in some of videos. And now here we'll see, after creating the backlog, it is the responsibility of product owner to connect with the team members and explain them about the deliverables and to get all the basic understanding about the project, like how it is going to be delivered. And then he conducts a sprint planning meeting. So basically, before starting any sprint or any iteration, sprint planning meeting is much more essential, because without a sprint planning meeting you cannot start any work in a particular sprint. So in the sprint planning meeting, product owner, then development team and Scrum Master gathers together, and they decide on which task they are going to work on this particular sprint. And all those stories and all the estimation is done in the before starting the sprint, because uh, it is effective that you should timeline all the task, because without timeline you cannot say that you can complete this particular sprint in 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it is much more essential to estimate the task, and accordingly you can plan the sprint. And once all the planning is done, then sprint backlog is created, and in that sprint backlog all the task is moved from product backlog to the sprint backlog. And then development team starts working on those sprint backlogs. So basically, all the designs should be available before starting the sprint backlog, because if development team don't have any specific design to work on, then they will be stuck. And if they are stuck, then it is not possible to complete all the assigned tasks that are there in the particular sprint. So it is the responsibility of product owner to manage all the respective deliverables and gather all the collective or all the correct information that are needed from the stakeholders. So once sprint is started, then every day one daily stand-up meeting is arranged, so that team members should be aware about the status of the work that is done, and if they are stuck somewhere, so they can ask their respective team members so that they can sort their issues. And also, if there has any roadblocks or if there have any dependency on some other team, so it is the responsibility of product and owner and scrum master both to remove all those products, all those roadblocks, so that team members should be able to work on the respective task. And then at the end of the sprint, sprint review meeting is arranged, so that development team can showcase like what is completed and how it is completed. And then we have a tester and we have other team members as well who need to ensure that whether it is completed as per the requirement or not, as per the acceptance criteria or not. So these are the main uses of a sprint review. Next, we have a finished work. Once all the sprints are completed, then finished work is delivered to the customer. So after completion, there have a set of processes like it should be properly tested and it should produce the result as per the expectation. And we have a sprint retrospective. So basically in sprint retrospective, team member gathers together to give the feedback to themselves. So we'll learn more about all these terminologies here, that is daily scrum meeting, sprint review, then we have a sprint retrospective. And we also have a burn down and burn up chart. So basically it is also used during the sprint to check the progress of your task, like how many tasks is completed and how much work is still pending and when it can be completed. So this is the main uses of scrum framework. Now we'll see the use of scrum framework. So what is the benefit of the scrum in any project? So there have some important benefits that we can see here. It is the adaptability, then we have a continuous improvement. So basically if we talk about adaptability, so it is nothing but a empirical process control and iteratory delivery, which makes project adaptable and open to incorporating change. So if there has any change that is that needs to be done during the sprint or uh, before creating the backlog, sprint backlog, so that can be done here in the scrum framework. Then we have a continuous improvement. The sprint improves the deliverable progressively through the groomed prioritized product backlog process. Then we have a sustainable pace. People involved work at a sustainable pace that they can, in theory, continue indefinite. So motivation. So the team member conducts a daily stand-up meeting and retrospect sprint processes, which leads to greater level of motivation among employees. Then we have a faster problem resolution. So with this, as we mentioned earlier, that collaboration and co-location of cross-functional teams, which leads to faster problem solving. Then we have a customer centric. So basically scrum emphasis on business value and a collaborative approach to stakeholders and ensures the customer oriented framework. Then it has a benefit of high velocity. So a collaborative framework enables highly skilled cross-functional teams to achieve their full potential and high velocity. So next we have a efficient development process. So it is also one of the benefit of using scrum framework. So it has a time boxing. It means that sprint has time boxed for 1 week or 2 week, and it also minimizes non-essential work, which leads to higher efficiency level. So these are the main benefits of the using scrum framework. Next we will see what is the scrum framework process categories. So basically scrum framework processes is broadly divided into three major categories, and these are important to understand the scrum framework. So first of all we'll see here it is scrum principles, then we have a scrum aspect, and third one we have a scrum processes. So we'll learn more about all these different scrum process categories. Then first one that we have here, it is scrum principle. So scrum has set of guidelines and set of principles that should be mandatory followed, so that it can be used in the scrum project, and if it is not followed, then we cannot guarantee the success of a project. The first one that we can see here, it is a control over empirical process. Then second, it is self-organization. Third, we have a collaboration. Fourth is value-based prioritization. Fifth one is time boxing, and sixth one is iterative development. So we'll learn more about all this Scrum principle here. So first one is a empirical process control. So what does it mean? So this particular principle basically emphasizes the core philosophy of Scrum based on the three main ideas or pillars of Scrum, such as transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So if we talk about Scrum, so basically it does provide transparency, and it does have adaptability, that is adaptable to change, and it has an inspection. So we'll learn more on these things. So basically empirical process control lets learning through experimentation, especially when the problem is not well defined or when there are no clear solutions. So, empiricism asserts that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what is known. And Scrum employs an iterative, incremental approach. So, basically, as I mentioned earlier, that there are set of different iterations that are decided before starting the work, and it does incrementally worked on the respective iteration so that it is completed on time, and this approach is used to optimize predictability and control the risk. Then we have a self-organization collaboration. So if we talk about a self-organization, so this principle basically focuses on today's worker who deliver significantly greater value when self-organized. So if we talk about any team member, so if we give them any specific task, then they try to finish it at the decided timeline only if they are monitored, or if they have their own room of flexibility to work on that particular task, and this results in better team buy-in and shared ownership, and an innovative and creative environment which is more conducive for growth. Next, we have a collaboration. So this principle focuses on the three core dimensions related to collaborative work, that is awareness, articulation, then we have appropriation. So it also advocates project delivery as a shared value creation process. So with team working and interacting together, as well as with the customer and other business stakeholders to deliver the greatest value. Next, we have value-based prioritizations. So this principle highlights the focus of Scrum to deliver maximum business value from early in the project and continuing throughout. So as we mentioned that in each iteration, team is delivering some value to the customer. They are not delivering the entire project, but some part of the project is getting delivered, and it is also being accepted by the stakeholders. So that's why it is a value-based prioritization. Next, we have a time boxing. This principle describes how time is considered a limiting constraint in Scrum and used to help effectively manage project planning and executions. Time boxed elements in Scrum include sprints, then we have a daily stand up meetings, sprint planning meeting, then we have a sprint review meeting, and we have a retrospect sprint meetings. So as the name defines, time boxed, so these meetings that are arranged for the Scrum, so they are already predefined, like how much time it should take, and it should not take much more time, so that time should not be wasted while conducting all these meeting. It should have some fruitful or meaningful outcome after these particular meetings. So that's why it is time boxing. Next, we have iterative development. So this principle defines iterative development and emphasizes how to better manage changes and build product that satisfy customer needs. So we can expect any changes during the sprint, and if it is it can be accommodated in the sprint, then it can be taken by the team members and can be completed at the end of the sprint. So this is the main benefit of iterative development, and it also delineates the product owners and organization responsibilities related to iterative development. Next, we'll see three pillars of the Scrum. So basically, as I mentioned earlier as well, in the empirical process, that we have three different pillars like transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So we'll see what is transparency here. So we have a visibility to the significant aspect of the process to those responsible for the outcome. So here each team member knows what they need to deliver and for which particular part they are responsible. So these transparency are there in this scrum framework, and this also ensures that the standardized viewpoint is shared by everyone so that each member is on the same page. So during the daily stand up meeting, each member describes like what they have done, and if they are facing any challenges, so they raise their issues. So that's why we have a transparency in the scrum. Next, we have an inspection. So timely checks on the progress towards the sprint goal to detect undesirable variances, and it should be conducted at the point of origin of each work section. So basically, before starting or before doing any changes, it is properly inspected and all the impact has been checked before implementing anything. So that's why inspection is there in the Scrum. Next, we have adaptation. So adjusting a process to minimize any further deviation or issues so that the entire project is on track. So if there have any particular issues, then those can be handled before, so that they should not have any issues while completing the sprints or while completing any sprint goal. So thank you so much, and in the next video we'll learn more about other Scrum terminologies.